So at this point, I've told several people that I'm reviewing Alan Wake, and each one of them has responded with the astounding, "What?" Which initially took me by surprise. That is before I realized that while my friends were watching Minecraft Cops and Robbers, I was watching outside Xbox videos to find games my parents would never buy for me. So when I finally got old enough to get yelled at by adults for 13 an hour, I started to chip away at the backlog, Alan Wake being one of the first games I would touch. Of course, I wasn't sure what I was expecting when I started out, but I know I wasn't expecting to get Stephen King quoted at me by the most generic action hero ever. To be honest, finding a way to critique this game is pretty difficult, because my biggest problems with it is its gameplay and the pacing, and when you're not enjoying 80% of the game, it gets hard finding one point to focus on first. Just like every action-based game released in the 2010s, the core gameplay loop consists of resource collection, followed by fighting off groups of enemies called the Taken. This by itself isn't an issue, however the problem comes in when you learn there are only 4 enemy types and you meet all of them in the first level. It's an amount of recycling that would put Greta Thunberg to shame. It doesn't even stop there, the enemies themselves are almost copying each other, since the main difference between them isn't how you kill them, but how long it takes. Some are fast and fragile like a toddler, some take hold mag dumps like see previous, and the rest are right in the middle. The only thing that makes combat any form of difficult is the flashlight mechanic, since you have to run in circles, keeping yourself exposed before you can start damaging them. I haven't even talked about the bosses, whose whole design philosophy seems to be focused on avoiding you like I avoid family gatherings. Out of the handful of these that you encounter, only one of them tried to attack me, and none of them landed a hit. They're too fast to reasonably track with your flashlight, and the amount of time that you need to burn them is only rivaled by the lifespan of the sun. All of this combined with the prolonged levels, and you can imagine my frustration when my recording software broke halfway through episode 4, and I didn't figure it out until I beat the game. Now I wish all of these problems ended with the gameplay, but they end up infecting the story as well. In the story, Alan Wake and his wife are on a vacation in the Bright Falls in an attempt to help Alan with his writer's block. However, once you get there, weird things start to happen until Alan's wife falls off your rented balcony into the water of Cauldron Lake. Alan dives in after her and wakes up after a bad car crash, missing a week from his memory. Alan escapes the wreck, fighting off some of the Taken, and finding a scrap of paper from a manuscript he doesn't remember writing. In the pages that you find, they begin to show future events in the game, which play out exactly as they do in the manuscript. After making it through the woods and calling the police, Alan informs him of Alice's disappearance at Cauldron Lake. The rest of the game is spent looking for your wife and trying to figure out what is behind the Taken in the manuscript. Now I showed on the game earlier, but I actually like the story, and it was one of the main reasons for me finishing the game in the first place. I've always found Edgecorrian stories extremely enticing, and Alan Wake does not disappoint. But it does fail in though is the pacing. Because of the large gaps within some of the levels, it leads to either parts of the story or entire characters becoming more underdeveloped in your conversational skills. FBI Agent Nightingale is a character that's first introduced in the manuscript and is shown throughout the game trying to catch Alan. He's impatient, rowdy, and a more loose cannon than your mother at my house. He ends up having zero impact on the story or development of the characters, and unceremoniously is taken off with the Dark Presence. It's apparent that the writers tried to develop him more through the manuscript, as there are some pages stating that his partner was talking about staying away from the shadows and how he began to have nightmares where he saw someone like Alan, thus beginning his research. This way of using the manuscripts for background storytelling can be really good. However, there are 106 pages of them, and I only managed to find 49 during my first playthrough. A character shouldn't need to make sense through optional collectibles. There isn't a joke here, I actually really hate stuff like this. Actually, this game seems to have a Hemingway-style hard-on for collectibles. 106 pages, 100 coffee thermoses, can towers, fucking can towers. Did they forget about the game? Because I feel like I'm chasing the fucking Easter Bunny. The truth is, when the game is good, it is really good. The story itself is really cool, and I like it a lot. The prophecy trope has been done to death in every medium, but I haven't seen a story use it in this way before. However, outside of those moments, it begins to get lost. There are some other interesting bits of background storytelling in the form of paint that can only be seen when you shine your light on it, which can lead to hidden stashes of supplies that can top you off on ammo, batteries, and the like. Sometimes it can even reveal scrawlings of a madman, adding yet another layer to the mystery, but even those begin to repeat themselves and become just another thing to pass over. Just like how most people pass over the subscribe button. Remedy tried incorporating so many elements to make the game serious and edgy that loop right back around to making it stupid. Throughout the game, they lean heavily into the fact that Alan is a famous writer and uses literary connections throughout quotes or other methods to remind you of that. Alan quotes Stephen King at you when you start the game. He constantly talks about what it means to be a writer. One of the characters comments that he's a good writer, but a little heavy on the metaphors, which is very apparent if you read the manuscript. Fuck, Agent Nightingale just calls you by names of other writers. What is most crazy about this is how they did all of that research and then called the Eye of Sauron, quote, the flaming Eye of Mordor, end quote. This is the type of shit teachers would complain about when students would skim pages of Wikipedia for their book reports. Like, seriously, how do you fuck this up? At this point, I bet some of you think that I hate the game developers. Fuck you, don't act like you know me. Anyone who tells you this game doesn't have issues is looking through the thickest pair of nostalgia goggles. After the first 2 levels, the gameplay became stale, and the only saving grace was how well the story was written, because even with its poor pacing, it kept me looking for those answers. And for those who thought I've been nitpicking, I kindly direct you to eat my ass till you see daylight, because for every good thing Alan Wake does, it takes 1 step forward and 2 steps back. I'm hoping most of these issues are fixed for the sequel, because contrary to how this video may sound, I'm actually a really big Remedy fan. But if any of this appeals to you, especially the story, then I recommend picking it up while it's on sale. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching. I plan on doing reviews on some of the other Remedy games, including Quantum Break next, so if you want to be aware of when that happens, you know what to do.